Good morning. Welcome to Prairie Pioneer Schoolhouse. I have a very special video for you today. I think all my videos are special. No, but I have a special video that someone said they would love to see when I offered, and that is a video on the Proverbs 31 woman. And I was very excited to do this video, and I have been kind of pouring myself over and thinking and writing things down of what I wanted to share with you guys. And the biggest thing that kept coming to my heart was make it as practical as you can, because I have read a lot about the Proverbs 31 woman. I have read books, I have watched videos, and I like all of them. But I have always found that it always seems almost like unattainable, like she's just so perfect. But as I have studied over the years, I have come to a conclusion, and I do not believe that it is impossible to be a Proverbs 31 woman. I think it is extremely possible. I think we should have to break it up piece by piece, know where this is coming from, and try to make it more of a practical guide. Okay, so the first thing I would say is do not put the Proverbs 31 up on a pedestal in the sense that she is unreachable, okay? Think about it more as like, you know, when you're going up the stairs and you either go to the second floor or there's like this base, imagine her more like that. I know it doesn't sound as beautiful, or maybe if you really want to, she can be up on a pedestal, but have a nice little golden ladder there that can get you up, okay? Know that it's totally attainable for you as a woman of God to become a Proverbs 31 woman. So, a little history of Proverbs 31. First of all, when you're reading Proverbs 31, you need to realize who is talking. Do you know who's talking? I'm sure you probably do, but if you don't, it is a queen, and she's talking to her son, the prince, and she's basically helping him with guidelines for his life. And within this, she's telling him what kind of a woman he wants to marry, and that is where we get the Proverbs 31 woman from. Now, obviously, it's in sacred scripture, so it is inspired, and I think this is definitely something that God wants us to try to attain and work towards. So it's not just for this one person. That's the great thing about scripture. Sometimes it's not just for one person. It's inspired as well. But so what I did was I went through and I wrote down all the different things specifically that she says to her son that makes up the ideal wife or the Proverbs 31 woman. So the first thing it says is she is far more precious than jewels. So I love this because this is where we should always start as women. We should always start with our worth, or the fact that we are priceless. No one can put a price on our head. One time I heard this story of this little girl asked her daddy. She said, "Daddy, do you love me or something?" And he says, "Oh, I love you. You're priceless." And she said, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "Well," and he was trying to get real practical because she was little. He said, "That means I can't put a price on you." And then she said, of course, "Well, what does that mean?" So he looked down at the coffee table and he said, "Do you see this coffee table?" And she's like, "Yes." He said, "I can put a price tag on this. I can say this coffee table is worth $10, $15, but I cannot put a price on you." And she was like, "Oh," and then she got it. So this is a really great place to start, because none of the other stuff in Proverbs 31 is going to make any sense, I think, if we don't get this in our heads. You are priceless. I am priceless. We are worth more than rubies. And that kind of sounds funny because we're like, wait, you just said we're priceless. Now we're worth more than something? But that's just to put into perspective, you know? So that's the number one thing, is if you know anything about anything with the Proverbs 31 woman, she is priceless. She is worth more than rubies. She is worth more than anything in the whole entire world. She is very special, and she's a daughter of the king. That's the first place to start. The second one can be a stumbling block, I'm going to be honest, for some women, especially if you're a convert or you've become Christian later on after you've been married, and maybe the first part of your marriage you felt like you weren't really the ideal wife. But the second part says, "The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain." So I put down, he is sure of his wife and trusts her with his heart, and also in their dealings, like in their choices of their home and what they're going to be doing. But this can be a hard one, because for years this was a stumbling block for me. Because in the beginning years, I felt like I was someone needed something. In the early years, I felt like I was kind of like a bad wife, and I felt like I didn't know how to be a wife, and I felt like I did almost like more evil to my husband than good. I wasn't like trying to be mean and vindictive, but I just wasn't. It was really hard for me when I, really came into knowing our Lord and reading the scriptures and learning about what it meant to be a husband and a wife in the sacrament of marriage. And I remember just wanting to fall over and cry because I felt like I was just a big old failure. So I remember for a long time, this part of the Proverbs 31 woman, I felt like I couldn't get past, because I felt like my husband couldn't trust me, and that he couldn't that he would have a lack of gain because I was just, but that was my personal stuff that I had to work out. So, and that kind of carries on to the next part. It says, and she does him good and not harm all the days of her life. And that was hard too for me because I really kind of hold on to things, not necessarily with other people, but with myself, because I really want to do the best. And if I don't have the right tools, it's really hard. But once I got the right tools and once I started to learn about this, that's when things changed, and I started to pray that God would help me just start right now. Like, I can't change anything about my past. I can't make anything different, but I can start right now. So that's what I wrote down for you guys. This is, as soon as you understand this, that the heart of her husband trusts in her and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. As soon as you understand this, start right now. Right now, okay? Don't look back, and you want to create a good track record. Okay, that sounds funny, but I'll tell you one thing. It's a lot better to have 5, 10, 15, 20 years of being a blessing to your husband compared to, like, let's say the early years, let's say 2 or 3 years or something, of you not being a blessing to him. That's a long time to show through virtue and perseverance, to show your husband and to show God that you have, and to show yourself that you can be kind and loving and virtuous. And so I think that's the best way, instead of just sitting around and sulking and being super sad about the past. Now, some of you women might be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been the most wonderful wife since day one. Well, hey girl, high five. That's great. I wasn't. So I had to learn a lot about what it meant to be a wife. And now, like, I try really hard not to look back, but sometimes it is hard. But I try really hard to just be a total blessing to my husband as best that I am capable of. Do I fail? Yes, I do. But I know that I'm trying really hard, and he knows I'm trying. And that's the special part. Now that we understand that we're priceless and that we want to be a blessing to our husband, and we want to have his heart to trust us and to do good for him all his life, like, we understand our worth, we understand not that that's part of our worth is the beginning, and then what we're wanting to give and do for our husband in that special way. Now we move on to more of the home, okay? It says, she seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands, y'all. I love this. So I wrote down, she's industrious. So what you do is you take your gifts and the things that you are good at, okay? And you create and you work within that. So for years, I would look at other women, compare and despair, y'all. Compare and despair. My husband says that. So that's important, is that if you look around and you see that this other woman is so good at making her beautiful flower garden outside her home, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And then you go out there and you get frustrated and there's bugs everywhere and you don't want to do it, and you end up just putting down a tarp thing and just laying mulch down and putting one flower pot. That's all right. That's all right. That is beautiful. I mean, if you and your husband want to make it better, you can work through and do more. But maybe that's just not your season right now. Maybe, like, you're really good at crocheting. Like, I didn't even know I had that gift. And then when I learned how to crochet, I have made literally, like, probably like 50 hats for my kids, and my maybe baby blankets for people. That's my ability. I can do that, and I wanted to. I think everybody can, but you have to, like, really work at it. But anyway, and so, like, you take what you are good at and when you feel confident in, or something that maybe you can grow at, and you take that and you're industrious within that area. I think that's really important. So I remember when I first read that, I was like, wool and flax? Like, I thought, okay, we need to be homesteaders, but over the years, I've learned, like, this is specific to their time. But for us, in our time, if you want a homestead, that's fine, and that's something that you and your husband are called to. But it just really means to be industrious. That's the conclusion that I've kind of come to work within the gifts that I have, and be creative and be willing. Not just be like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. But be willing, have a willing heart. Next one is, she is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from far away. The way that I understand this one, and again, I'm not trying to make everything the way I understand it. I just mean from, the 12 years of me really trying to live out Proverbs 31, I've come to an understanding. Here you go, buddy. Is this yours?
No.
I've come to an understanding of how in which to live Proverbs 31 out practically in my life. So I wrote down, for she is like the ships the merchant, she brings her food from far away. What I wrote down is, you know where your food, your clothing, books and movies, and what is inside those movies, you know what I mean, You know where all of that comes from, and you know when you'll need to go shopping next. This is a really interesting one because years ago, my kids and I, we read a book about ships and shipyards and merchants and everything, and it really made me realize this part of Proverbs 31 better. So, you know, a long time ago, let's say, you know, when America was first starting out in the 13 colonies, you know, they had to wait for ships to come and bring things, and you had to kind of know the schedule. But was it like now where we know the precise day and time? No. Sometimes you're like, oh, they're going to come in September. Well, they wouldn't come that late, but let's say they'll come in June, you know, and then you're waiting in June and you're like, man, we're getting low on stuff, and then they come in July. But you kind of know when they're coming. You, as a ship merchant, let's say, and then from the other perspective, you know, you have everything, you've stocked everything, you know exactly what you're supposed to be bringing, and you try to stay on time. So if you think about it from that perspective, it really, to me, it really meant like, okay, budget, meal plan, you know when you're gonna run out of milk. You know it's coming. You know when your husband's gonna need new socks in his drawer. Like, you know these things because you have an understanding of your home, you know? And it was like, oh, and I like started to understand that. It helped me so much. Another part that I include in this is the entertainment that you're bringing within your home. We watch almost every single movie that our kid, well, I do usually, like I'll screen a movie before my kids watch it, or I'll at least look through it, or I'll read reviews and I'll look at all the stuff that costly. And a lot of times I say no. And they're like, oh man. And I'm like, I know, I feel the exact same way. It's a shame that these people that make movies don't think about your soul and your virtue. And that's what we do. And so I feel like that's another part of this in Proverbs 31 is knowing where everything's coming from, knowing when things are going to be coming up, and knowing what you're bringing within your home. Because honey, you're a gatekeeper. And I've told my kids that too. I tell them Papa and Mama are the gatekeepers, and we make sure that nothing comes in that's not okay for you guys. And you know what they said to me after we had this like long conversation? They were like, oh, so then I told them, I said, so we're the gatekeepers, and we're going to help you to one day become your own gatekeeper. And then they were like, oh, and then we're going to be gatekeepers for our children. And I'm like, yes. And that's part of the Christian legacy within our family. So anyway, so this is an important one. The next one I think is a stumbling block for a lot of people because they think it means you have to literally wake up super early. It says she rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and tasks for her servant girls. Some people are like, I don't got maids, I don't have servant girls, and I have a nursing baby. I can't wake up at 5 a.m. because he'll just wake up with me and then I'll be exhausted. Okay, don't worry, breathe. Wait, I have worked this into my life so I can become a Proverbs 31 woman. Prepare before and incorporate all the help you can, okay? So prepare before. Yes, you could wake up super early in the morning, or you remember the saying that today begins the night before, okay? So before you go to bed, sweep your living room, clean your kitchen, get your dishes in the dishwasher, make sure you're not like way behind, because the next morning you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. But if you include tomorrow and today in the sense of your duties and your jobs, then you're gonna feel like, oh my gosh, it feels like I woke up super early and I got all this stuff done. Now, I think it is really great to wake up before your children for two reasons. One, because you have your time, your personal prayer time, your quiet time, you're not shushing people or telling them to go away. And another thing is, it is so beautiful to see your children's faces when you're up in the morning before they are and you're like making pancakes and they walk in, they're like, wow, like it's all ready for us. Like there's something really beautiful about that. Now, I can't give that to my children all the time. I've had babies every 2 years. There's sometimes where I'm up all night for nights at a time. So when I sleep, you know what I mean? And when I gotta get up, I gotta get up. But the way that I've been able to become a Proverbs 31 woman in the way that I can, still being humble, I'm not perfect, is prepare before. And then incorporate all help. We might not have maids, we might not have servant girls, which is probably a good thing. But if we have someone that's offering to like make a meal for us, or they're offering to come and give free piano lessons to our kids because they're a teen and they're trying to get hours, and you know, I would still be there visually. I wouldn't just leave them alone with someone. But you know, if someone offers help and you feel comfortable about it and you can still be in the vicinity and everything, make sure to be that gatekeeper, then incorporate all the help that you can. The next one says she considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. Now, for years, I thought this was about homesteading. I thought it was literally about a garden. I think it's a wonderful thing to have a garden. I think it's wonderful to homestead. But let's just say you're not in that season. I put down budgeting and be wise with your money, okay? Because if you know this much is coming in and you want all this stuff, you're gonna have to just let go of that stuff, or you're gonna have to minimize and say, okay, well, I want this thing, so I'm gonna save up for it. I'm gonna budget and put it away, and then when you get it, you're gonna be like, it's ours, and we don't owe anything on it, and it's great. So budgeting and be wise with your money. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. I really do believe that this one can be taken a couple of different ways. The way that I have like taken it, one of two ways. One is virtue. You want to be strong in virtue, but also about your health, like taking care of your health. And when I read in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it talked about how health is a gift, and it's something that we should try to cherish and take care of, not let it become like a god or like a religion to us, but just, you know, basic health and stuff like that. So I think it's important to take care of basic things like getting up in the morning and washing your face and getting dressed. That's a way to care for yourself, and it's a way to bless your family, because when you're ready, you're on, you know. Or like if you could go on walks with your family, or if you can do an exercise video in the afternoon that's not gonna be too disruptive, like that's a good thing for your health. Try to incorporate like if you have the money, or if you have like organic foods, or if you have a local farmer's market where you're gonna get something local, that's one little way that you can like add in. Now, I'm not saying everything has to be this way, but just, you know what I mean, like maybe your vegetables for the month. Just try to focus on getting really healthy vegetables for the month. Like just those kinds of things. Like that can be a blessing to your family. It can be good for your health and good for the family's health as well. I absolutely love this next one. It says, she perceives, and I underline that word, that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. Okay, guys. Sometimes we're going to go through times where we literally don't have very much in material goods, okay? Maybe our husbands are working really hard, but the money that they're making is just not that much, but they're trying, you know? Look around your house. When she says she perceives her merchandise is profitable, it means that she sees what's around her and she perceives it, she sees it as profitable. Look around your house and try to be a good steward and say, what do I have that is great? Okay, well, first of all, if you're in a house and you're looking around at walls, you have a house or an apartment. You're inside, you're out of the elements. So that is the first thing to be thankful for. Walls are a beautiful thing. You can get very inexpensive paint if you wanted to. You can go to Goodwill and find beautiful like artwork for nothing. Cheap curtains. You can do a lot of things with a very little amount of money. So look around your house, be proud of your house, be proud of your apartment, be proud of anywhere that you live, and try to take what little you have, whatever resource, and just do a little something to kind of spruce it up. And you can even do it monthly. Like let's say you have a $10 budget a month, and maybe that's even a stretch, but let's say you have $10. Go to Goodwill, you can get a beautiful picture frame and probably a set of curtains for $10. Do one room at a time, you know, like go in your master bedroom, because that's a place where you and your husband are together and that's special. Or if you're single, like maybe you could do your children's room, because that's really special, or a living area that you love, or an office, you know, just one nice picture and a set of curtains. You know, you can just like kind of make sure they're nice and like, you know, not all crinkled and everything, and put up that painting in a good spot, and that's going to inspire you. And you want to be a good steward of wherever you're living and perceive your area and your home as something that's special and good, because it is. So I really like this one. I also wrote down, she's not going to be lazy with her time. That's a big one, because guys, I know everyone's like, there's not enough hours in the day. And then sometimes in certain seasons of your life, you're like, there are too many hours in the day. Like I'm so exhausted. But just try with all your might to not be lazy with your time. If you need to sit down for 20 minutes and rest and put your feet up, do it, because you need to have rest. But then make yourself get up, unless you have like I had a thyroid issue, like a really bad one for years, and I literally felt like I couldn't get off the couch. That had nothing to do with me being lazy. That was a physical issue. So if you are having an issue like that, you feel like you literally cannot get up, it'd be a really good idea to get your blood work checked and check your thyroid or some other issues, you know. But like, you know, just getting yourself up and saying, what is one thing I can do? Or if you follow me for a while, you know I love to make lists. Just make lists of 3 things that you can do and start crossing them out and help you to feel like you're being productive, you know. And then if you do have a husband that comes home and does say stuff like, what have you been doing all day? Well, then you can get your list out and be like, look, honey, I did all these things. See, I crossed them out. If you really feel like you want to have something measurable for him. But anyway, so that's that one. The next one says she puts her hands to the distaff, I think that's how you say it, and her hands hold the spindle. Basically, her hands are busy, and she is good at using the gifts that she has to serve others around her. I love it when my mom tells me stories about my grandmother, and she said that her hands were always busy. Either she was like working in her home or working in the garden or crocheting, or she was just always had her hands busy. And I remember when I was a kid thinking, I love that. Like I want to carry on that legacy of having my hands busy. I am always holding a baby. I am always doing something, and you have to be careful because holding a phone and typing a whole bunch is not necessarily keeping your hands busy, because it sometimes can feel like it, y'all. But a little bit on the phone is okay, you know. But then like have something you can do, like a hobby. It's so good for our kids to see us have hobbies as well. So this is a good one. Okay, the next one says, she opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. I like this one. I think that it's important. Two different things. One, be charitable in a safe way. I do not think it's safe as a mom with kids in the car to pick up like a hitchhiker like that. I don't think that's safe. I also we don't usually give money out to people that are asking for money, but we will offer sometimes to go get food for them. Like I'll say, you know, is there something you like from like this place over here, and go get it and bring it back to them, but stay in your car and be safe. The other part of it, I think, is in compliance with your husband, because I think sometimes as women, we get a fire in us to tithe, and I think that's fantastic. But our husbands are the providers, and a lot of times they're a bit more cautious about how their money is spent. So if you do want to tithe, like to make sure it's in compliance with your husband, even if it's $5, if it's something that like you really want to tithe, and he's only saying like, well, I think $5 is good or whatever, and you're like, $5? Make that $5 super special. Put it in an envelope. You know, write a little special note to your pastor, like do something really special if you want to, but make that $5 special, and God can bless that and make it grow in abundance. All right, then we have, she is not afraid of her household when it snows, for all her household are clothed in crimson. So I love this because sometimes you're gonna live in places where it doesn't snow, so you think, I don't understand this, but basically what it is prepare for the season in advance. Keep clothes if you can. So if you know in like July or August, usually they have sales during that time, like for the summer clothes. I would stock up. Sometimes they have like let's say you have a 1-year-old, and you know the next year during that time they're going to be 2, and in July and August they have a ton of little boy shorts for 2-year-olds for $1 each. Like I would get 4 pair, you know, I mean, if you have the budget for it, and you know, not to be crazy, but get 4 pair, and then take them, put them in a crate and put them away. And then next year in the summer, he's going to have what he needs. Same for winter. So like, I think it's like February or March, depending on where you live, they'll have huge sales on winter coats, and those are expensive. So think about the ages of your children that they're gonna be next year, and stock up, get the winter coats that they need. So when the snow's coming, you're not gonna be like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Everything's so expensive. We don't have any winter boots. We don't have any coat. Honey, you are prepared. So this is a good one. This is a really special one. This has always been special to me, but it says she makes herself coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. No, I'm just joking. What I did for this one, for years, I tried to make clothing. I tried to make dresses. And I found that I didn't think it was very pleasing to my husband, the things I was making. And also it was like a ton of work and a lot of stress. And so I had to kind of think about, okay, like maybe I won't make clothing for myself or my children. At least not in this season. Maybe I can make them for my grandchildren one day. What? I think it's gonna be so cool to be a grandparent one day. Anyway, but I learned to crochet and quilt. So find your niche, kind of find the thing. We say niche in the South. I hear niche up here. I'm like, I grew up with a niche, so I don't know. But anyway, find your niche. Don't compare and despair with other people. Just find something that you like to do, that maybe it's not like the thing that you would love to do all the time, but maybe like with a quilt especially, you can like focus in on making a quilt per child. Like I have a quilt I made for my oldest son. I have a quilt for my daughter, and then everything's been packed away and we've moved and stuff. But when I get my sewing area, I'm gonna make a quilt for my 3rd son, and then so on and so forth. And then I've made hats for them, and I made blankets for people. So it's like, just find your niche, make clothing if you wanna do that, or make fine linens, make, you know, crochet, do something special. And I think that's just important to always do something have something to do with cloth or like yarn or something. And you can even like make fun little felt Halloween costumes for your baby. Like I made a St. Therese costume for my daughter with felt, because it was super easy. You don't have to sew it. You do. You don't have to hem it, because it's like so easy to cut, and it's super easy to sew. This one is very special to me. It says, her husband is known in the city gates, taking his seat among the elders of the land. Always speak well of your husband to others. I really believe in this. Now, I am not talking to you. I'm not talking about people that are in like a horrendous abusive relationship. I'm not telling you to lie about someone if they're doing horrible manipulative things to you. I'm talking about the everyday, like, you know, you're married and maybe your husband, you know, doesn't have all the qualities that you would want him to have, let's just say. Like, I bet you anything that he has good qualities. If you really searched and you prayed and you asked God to look at the way, or for you to see him the way God does, you're going to find good qualities, and then talk him up with those qualities. Because don't you want to be talked well of? Would you want your husband going out and talking badly about you in the community? Like, no, we want to speak well of our spouse. I think that's really important. And if you look, I mean, oh my goodness, you're going to find so many qualities that you're like, oh my goodness, my husband is like such a blessing to me. He has all of these qualities. And it might take a while, or it might be super easy for you, but I think that's really important. Always speak well of your husband. Also, I do believe in counseling. Like, let's say your husband doesn't want to do counseling, let's say, or maybe you don't need counseling with him, but you can go to counseling and you can work on yourself, because in the end, at the end of the day, the only person you can truly work on is yourself. So finding I go to, like, not anymore, but before I used to go to like really good Catholic counselors. So you want to be cautious, because depending on what kind of counselor you go to is the kind of counseling you're going to get. But I found one, and also that I went through Catholic Charities. Like, these are years ago. My husband was in school, so we didn't have like any money. And I went through Catholic Charities, and so it's like free or like super inexpensive. Sometimes your parish will have a counselor on site. Just someone to kind of talk to if you feel like you need to get your head right. Because going from being a young person to an adult, it's a lot. And a lot of times people just assume that it's easy, and it might not be. So just having someone to be kind of objective with you and help you to like become the best version of yourself is awesome. Also, I put down, find a great Titus 2 woman and ask your husband if he wouldn't mind, if like it's someone he really trusts and he thinks is a great person, if you can talk to her openly about the issues that you're having that aren't necessarily him, but maybe an issue you're having with him or something. And that way you're going to have guidance from a woman. And listen, okay, a Titus 2 woman is not just an older woman. She needs to be someone who's living the faith out and who is like, loves the Lord very much and respects her husband. You don't want to be getting advice from someone who does not respect their husband at all, because she's not gonna help you in this area. I mean, you can still have great friendships with people that are older, but when I say Titus 2 women, and I can do a video on this too, but I'm talking about a woman who is living for the Lord, who loves the Lord, who honors her husband. And preferably, if you're in a certain religion, to have someone in that religion that can help you also in your walk. So I want to put that down. And then also, it's not your job to let everyone know about your stuff, okay? Like, in the early years, I literally thought that that's what you were supposed to do. Like, you just talk to your friends about all kinds of stuff. And then when I became Christian, I started reading the Bible and doing Bible studies. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you're not supposed to talk about, I think you're supposed to talk about everything. I had no idea that you were supposed to be like, you know, prudent in certain areas, or just like that there's certain things you just don't talk about, or if you do want to talk about something, you talk about specifically with a certain type of a person. Because if you talk about whatever to anybody, and I'm not just talking about your marriage, I'm just talking about anything, you're going to be getting so much advice from people. And a lot of times people don't give advice that they actually live out. They give like what they would want. So then you're not getting like practical advice. I'm not trying to go on and on this subject, but this is a really good one, I think, and it's important. We want our husbands to have good status in the world. We want them to feel like they can become part of the elders as they get older. I do. I think that's important. And I am like really proud of my husband. I mean, he's always had really great qualities, but he has become such an amazing man. I mean, just such an amazing man. And I love him. And all I do is talk good about him because I'm just really proud of him. And like, now I can see all those good qualities because I'm not like strung out on like, you know, anti-men stuff. Anyway. Okay, the next one says she makes linen garments and sells them. She supplies the merchants with sashes. Okay, so before we talk about being industrious, I have mixed feelings on this one, not what scripture says, but about how you can take it. Because your primary vocation is your marriage and the raising of your children. So like with my crocheting, I've had so many people say, you could have a business with this. Yeah, I could, but then like, I'm going to be taking so much time away from my family. So I think it's a really good idea to figure out what your talents are and to see if it clashes with your primary vocation and if you can do it within your primary vocation. Like for me, YouTube has become something really fun. I mean, I'm not really like, it's not about making money, but it's about like a ministry, serving others, blessing others, getting encouragement, giving encouragement, and all that kind of good stuff. And it's great because I can literally press stop, go away for 2 hours and help, you know, the children do stuff and come back and just press start. And it's like the video just hasn't stopped. You know what I mean? So it really works well with my primary vocation. It does not clash with it. And it's something that I can do to honor the Lord and to also like as a woman have others to talk to and visit, and you know what I mean? So it's a good thing. So I would just say, as long as whatever it is that you're thinking about doing does not clash with your primary vocation and your husband's on board with it and you guys feel good about it and you feel like it's not pulling you away from your primary vocation, I think it could be a real blessing. Okay, the next one says, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. Beauty is nice. okay? But virtue is so much better, okay? So I think that what it means is strength and dignity are her clothing. Like, we want to be robed in virtue. We want that to be the primary thing that that is obvious as soon as someone meets us within our life. Like, I remember one time someone said, if someone sent you to court and you had to prove that you were Christian, could you? And I also think that that's the same way, like, if you were put to court, could people by testimony prove that you have virtue? Like, I mean, you don't want to be going around showing everybody like, I'm so virtuous. But I'm just saying that, like, you know, that is way more important than beauty. I do think it's important to take good care of, like, your skin and, you know, kind of your hair. I don't want to do too much with my hair, but, you know, take care of yourself. And you want to be, like, lovely for your spouse, especially if he has certain preferences. Like, you know, if he likes short hair or long hair and you also feel the same way, then, you know, that's something you can do. But mainly here, I think it's talking about virtue, like just clothing yourself in virtue and trying to grow in that. And then not worried, and she laughs at time to come, not worried about the future. I think this has a lot to do with anxiety and depression. I'm not talking about depression like the kind that you can't do anything about, like chemical imbalances and stuff. I'm talking about like a bummed out way of thinking, or like letting your emotions just totally control you, or having so much anxiety that it's like debilitating. Like, I've had all of that years before. So I know what it's like to be so concerned about your future. I'm at the point now where I have really learned so many tools to be helpful, to help me to work through that type of depression and anxiety. And of course, if you have the other type of depression or like anxiety that's really debilitating and you need help, like from a medical doctor, or like you need to like change your diet or something, that's important too. But I really like that it said that. Just, you know, it's like not worried about the future, finding ways to not be so concerned. I know this is a long video and I'm sorry, but I wanted to be very thorough because I think that a lot of these kind of like passages in here have been stumbling blocks for a lot of women, and they shouldn't be. Like I said before, all of us can be Proverbs 31 women. God is calling us to, and I really think that if we're practical about it and we just take like basic things down and we study our Bibles and we learn, you know, church teaching, that we can totally do this, you know, by God's grace as well. So the next one says, she opens her mouth with wisdom and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. When you speak, is it helpful, loving, encouraging, and or instructional? This is what you want to focus on. You want to be a wise woman. And as we get older, we don't want to still maintain that, I don't know, you know, stuff that kind of we have when we're early, like, I don't know anything, or like, oh, I know everything. When you get older, you want to let the Lord help you to become a wise person and to get good counsel. And it's like I said, when you speak, is it helpful? Are you helping the person? Are you like, is it going to be helpful? Are you being loving, encouraging, or instructional, especially when you're dealing with women? And I do think also when you're dealing with your spouse and children. Like, criticism, constructive criticism is one thing, but criticism is not good for anybody. I think that is like the worst way to do it. And if you are very critical and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so critical, don't worry. It doesn't mean you have to stay critical forever. You can learn how to say things in a kind way. It takes time and tools and grace. But yeah, so I really thought that was really nice. I like that one a lot. Okay, the next one is, she looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Home, not to take from, but to bring to and share. That's a big one. So home isn't just, oh, I'm just taking, you know, it's like, oh, I'm just so hungry, I'm gonna take, or like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm gonna go sleep. Like, it's not just something to take from, but it's to bring to and to share with others. Like, you know, you can be very hospitable with your home. As a homemaker, sometimes we think we don't have ministry. Our home is our ministry. We can have people over for dinner. We can have, when we were in Ohio, we had this thing where, for any of you Catholics out there, I'm sure you know who Scott Hahn is. Well, we used to live near Scott and Kimberly Hahn, and it was near Franciscan University. And Kimberly was so sweet, and she used to have these teas where she would invite university students and the local like moms with little kids and stuff, and we would get paired up, and then these young college students would come to our house. So what it was that a university student that maybe missed home or was kind of like discerning whether she wanted to be called to the vocation of marriage would come for 3 hours a week, and she would watch the kids or help out around the house, and then in turn the family would host her for a meal, and she could come and do her laundry once a week at the house. So it was really a cool thing. This is just a simple way of having ministry in your home. Like, yes, this young person is ministering to you, but sometimes we would get girls that really weren't comfortable with children and were really young, and it ended up just kind of us sitting together and talking for 3 hours, and that was the way I could minister to her, and that was totally fine. And they got to see because some of these girls would come to Franciscan University, and they didn't necessarily come from like homes that were like the sacrament of marriage, kind of like Catholic homes or Christian homes. Like, they maybe converted and they came, and so they would come and just kind of watch, like, wow, wow, this is so different, you know, and you want to be like a blessing to them. So that was like a way. And sometimes they were like amazing with kids, and man, they would just take the kids and then play, and you could get like so much done. Or one woman said she just played the piano for 3 hours because she just like she could, you know, while her little ones were being watched. So now, of course, don't get me wrong, your home is totally meant for rest as well. I want to make sure of that point. Okay, so let's see. It says her children rise up and call her happy or blessed, her husband too, and he praises her. Be diligent. And how would you act if someone was watching? That's a big one, because some people act one way when they're home and then totally another way when they're out. And just try to remember, if someone was watching you, how would you behave? Would you be screaming like crazy at your children or being rude to your spouse? No. And the Lord is watching, and you want to be the best you can for your family. Now, are you going to fail sometimes? Of course, but at least we can try. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. This is not a competition, okay? This is the way I try to think about it. I put down, not a competition, but to strive to learn from instruction from other godly women. So like, it's almost like they've come before you and they're willing to share this with you. If you can find someone that's like that, receive that information and that instruction and try to live it out. So it's not like you're better than them, but like you continually to grow and produce good fruit from this like beautiful line of Christian Catholic women. And I think that's like really important. So don't take that as a competition or comparison, but that just to take what they can hand you, learn from your scripture, read really good books and like encouragement from other women, Titus 2 women, and learn from them. And then we have charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. And then I wrote down, your beauty lies in the fact that you're a godly woman. This is a hard one for a lot of women, especially from my generation and probably from before, because literally I grew up being completely taught by the world and media and everything that my only value was in my looks and turning heads. And I remember when I converted and I went through my whole conversion and I was like shocked that that's not what it means to be a woman. And I look back at that now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that I thought that way. But I was just permeated in that. But anyway, so yeah, it's all about being a godly woman and owning that, being a daughter of the King, serving him, serving your husband, being strong and empowered and loving the Lord and knowing who you are. I mean, that is where your beauty's coming from. I mean, like, if you really, it's important to you to look nice and presentable, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that's just not where all of the worth comes and our strength and our value. The last thing here, I'm trying to wrap it up, I'm sure this has been a very long one, is give her a share in the fruit of her hands and let her works praise her in the city gates. And I wrote down, give her what she is due. Her own works will be her praise. And I like that because I remember years and years and years and years ago being like, feeling like I had nothing to show for being a godly woman because I didn't. But now I have all of these years of time that I have served the Lord and served my husband and been diligent and grown in virtue and all these things by the grace of God, only for him to be praised. And like for me to finally have the joy that I'm meant to have as a human being. And like, I feel now I'm getting like the fruit of my work, you know, because I can see all the beauty in my family and I feel it in my heart. I'm not in misery anymore like I was so long ago. And so yeah. So this is my Proverbs 31 video. I wanted to make it the most practical I could. I wanted to show you ladies that it is so possible, that Proverbs 31 is not far away. It's right there and we can totally get there. It's just each step we take closer and closer to becoming the Proverbs 31 woman. And when we get up there, we can look around and like want to help everyone else that we can to come up as well. I think it's a beautiful thing. Now, am I all the way up there and I'm perfect? No, I wasn't trying to say that. I'm just trying to say that look at Proverbs 31, as totally possible, knowing that this is someone you can be, that you can take on this, you can become this Proverbs 30 woman, that this can become part of who you are, that you can love and you can serve and you can be industrious, you can be all these things, that it's not some faraway concept, that it's right now, it starts right now where you're at and the little choices you make, and you might fall, you might fail, but like I said in my other videos, that's what a saint is, someone who falls and fails but just refuses to stay down and continually to gets up for the Lord and want to serve him in the very best they can. I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you would like me to do a video on Titus 2 women, I would love to do that. And blessings to you all. God bless.